Hi everyone, how are you today? Today we're going to be talking about how to change your relationship with food and stop eating your feelings. So I'm Kelsie Michaud, for those of you who don't know me, and I help people gain control of emotional eating so they can just feel healthy and confident as they make peace with food and their body. So I'm available for complimentary consultations, and that's where we jump on the phone for about 20 or 30 minutes, and we can dive really deep into your own health and weight goals, and I can show you how I can take you from where you are now to where you'd like to go. So let's jump into our topic. So I actually have 3 top tips for you to help you change your relationship with food so that you feed your hunger and not your emotions. So imagine if eating were as simple as just putting gas in your car. You'd fill up only when the gas light came on, but we obviously can't do that or the tank would overflow. But for a lot of us, eating is anything but straightforward. Eating is actually a biological necessity. And our emotions, hi Kelly, thanks for coming on. Our emotions, they tend to get in the way, unfortunately. And then our thoughts start going, and then we have there's our memories and then some of our rituals. And food actually has the ability to take on all kinds of meanings. It could be either for punishment, it could be to appease ourselves, it could be for some kind of a celebration or even an obligation that we have, or even depending on the day, or our mood, we may end up overeating or even undereating. It just depends. So, with that, it means that it's time to rethink our relationship with food. So I have these 3 tips for you. And number 1 is to reconnect your hunger. So, many things will drive us to eat. And one thing could be that it's just noontime and you're programmed to eat at noontime, right? A lot of times we're like, okay, lunchtime, noontime. Or maybe it's midnight. Maybe you're feeling like a midnight snack, or maybe it's something you're feeling. Maybe you're happy, or maybe you're anxious, or maybe we'd rather bring home our leftovers, or maybe we're too polite to say no to somebody offering us some food, or maybe we're just bored, or actually a big one is, oh, somebody brought in donuts, and all of a sudden you have that inner self-talk going on. So it's also, it's possible that, it's possible to actually go in the other direction too, because where we can actually suppress our appetite, and that's possible to do that as well, because sometimes it's not all about, the crazy binge feeling. Sometimes we go the complete opposite direction and we totally suppress that appetite, which can also be for many reasons too. It could be that we're just too busy, or maybe again our emotions get in the way. Maybe we're feeling sad, or maybe we're a little upset or angry or mad, or maybe because nobody else is eating. Do you feel like if you're at a function and no one else is eating, you would feel funny eating at that time? Or maybe it's too early in the morning, or maybe it's too late at night, or maybe we're just excited. It could be so many reasons. It goes, such over the spectrum. So let's try this. Eat only when you're hungry and stop when you're full. I know that sounds super simple and really easy, and why is she telling me that? But, it seems obvious, but think about it. How many times did you eat this past week when you weren't hungry? So, what can you do about that? This is something that I do with my clients, and it keeps them accountable. So, when you think about like your hunger and your fullness, think about your hunger and your fullness on a scale of 0 to 10, like a 0 to 10 scale, with 0 to 1 being hungry. And then when you get to 9 to 10, that's when you're like painfully stuffed. You're so full you couldn't eat another bite, as in like holiday dinner stuffed. So you want to actually begin eating when you first get hungry, and that compares to like a 3 or a 4. Actually, that's even a little too high, even more like a 2 on the scale. And when you first get like comfortably full, like at a 6 or a 7 on the scale, that's when you want to stop. Hi Kim, how are you? So the reason you shouldn't wait until you're starving is because that's when people tend to not make the best decisions. So, think about it. Like, have you ever gone to the grocery store and gone grocery shopping when you were starving? You probably didn't fill your cart up with produce like, all their good fruits and vegetables. You were probably gravitating towards the higher calorie items. So, it's also better to eat when you first get hungry, because you're more likely to enjoy your food more, and you're more likely to eat mindfully that way too. Because when you let yourself get too hungry, chances are, what happens is we end up eating really fast and not really paying attention, and we're not being in that moment. And like, in fact, one of the biggest predictors of overeating is just letting yourself get too hungry in the first place. So it's important to just slow down and be mindful in that moment. And two, feed your body what it's actually craving. So let's look back on your relationship with food. Think about that for a minute. Does it look like you are either dieting or binging, like one or the other? Hi, Janet. So the thing about being on a diet is the mentality of it. Like, it's the mentality of the diet told me what to eat. Or whereas being on a binge, it's more like eat whatever is convenient, or go all out on foods that were considered forbidden when you're on the diet. Does that sound familiar to anyone? Let me know. Is this resonating for you? Give me a hands up in the comments if this is something that resonates for you. So developing a different relationship with food means actually stepping out of those old patterns. Hi, Lynn. So instead of listening to others' opinions or diets of what you should eat, instead tune into your own body and give it what it's truly craving. So it may turn out that you weren't even craving the junk food to begin with. You may actually start tasting things for the first time. Like for example, I know for myself, once I got away from all those processed packaged foods and started eating more of a whole food diet, a lot of people think that eating like healthy or more whole foods is just bland and boring and no fun and tasteless. Well, it is not. It is absolutely not. Like, it's even more enjoyable than a lot of the junk and processed stuff I was having. I think it got to a point where it was just more convenient to have the processed stuff. But if you take the time to prepare, for yourself, like do some meal prepping on one day, take a couple hours, and you will be so happy you did, because you're going to enjoy your food more, and your body's going to thank you for it, because you're going to be giving it what it really needs. And then you're not going to be craving so much, because your body's getting what it needs. So that's, a reason why that, once we start transitioning to whole foods or more less processed and packaged foods, we may start really tasting food for the first time. So, your mind should not be filled with any judgment or guilt. And I can attest to all of that, because like I just said, I actually found that my body was craving nourishing foods like the fruits and vegetables, and I actually like quinoa and kale. Who knew? But once I started eating these things, I was just like, wow, this stuff is awesome, and I could feel it nourishing my body. I just feel so much better. So number 3, hi Nan, how are you? Janet says, yep, she gets it. I'm so glad that resonates with you. And like I said, maybe try just switching over to some really nice whole foods, and all of a sudden your taste buds are going to just be like, oh, wow, this is great. And your body's going to feel good, because it's going to feel so nourished by when you give it those kinds of foods. It's just, it's a win-win to me. So, okay, so back to number 3, try not to use food as a reward or punishment. I'm sure you've heard that before, but it's not surprising that we do this. So, if you think about it, like as children, as growing up, we learned pretty quick that celebrating and parties, it comes with cake, right? So while not so good behaviors result in no cake, these are things we learned as children. But one of the great things about being an adult now is that we can create our own associations with cake, or even just food in general. So I believe it's absolutely important to continue to celebrate your birthday with cake, or even with fresh fruit, or a crock pot of some homemade chili, or or whatever it is, something that you prefer. So, celebrate in ways that have nothing to do with food at all. That's an option as well. You are now able to make your own rules. So I hope that these couple of tips were helpful for you. And if you have any questions at all, please pop them in the comments and I will always get to them. And I hope it was helpful. And if you think that it would be helpful for someone else that you might know, please feel free to share the video. And just as a reminder, I'm available for complimentary consultations and I have 4 spots available left this week to fill in. So if you'd like to jump on the phone with me, we can talk for about 20 or 30 minutes about your own health and weight goals, and we can dive really deep into your health and weight goals and see what's going on. Maybe you're stuck, maybe you're a little confused, and I can show you how I can take you from where you are now to where you'd like to go. So does anybody have any questions for me today? Okay. Well, if there's no questions for now, like I said, always feel free to reach out at any time, and I'm going to hop off, but I hope everyone has a beautiful day. Bye, guys.